The stars above Earth had always been quiet and peaceful. Children looked up at them and dreamed of distant worlds. Scientists studied them through telescopes and wondered if anyone was out there. On that Tuesday morning in September, humanity got its answer. Commander Zorth stood on the bridge of his massive warship, the Pride of Valoria. He was tall, with gray skin and 4 eyes that glowed faintly yellow in the dim light. Behind him, through the viewing window, 12,000 warships hung in the darkness of space. They had traveled across the galaxy to reach this small blue planet, and Zorth was confident that this conquest would be like all the others. The Valorian Empire had taken 600 worlds. Some had advanced technology. Some had powerful armies. It did not matter. Every single one had surrendered within days of seeing the fleet. Why would they fight? The math was simple. Surrender and live as subjects of the Empire. Fight and die. Every intelligent species understood this. Scan the planet, Zorth ordered. His voice was deep and calm. He had done this many times before. His sensor officer, a young Valorian named Vren, worked at his console. Numbers and images flashed across his screen. After a few moments, he looked up with what passed for a smile among his people. "Commander, this will be easy. They call themselves humans. They have only recently developed nuclear weapons. Their space program is primitive. Their fastest ships would take months to reach their nearest neighbor planet. They have no orbital defenses, no energy shields, and no knowledge of hyperspace travel." Zorth nodded slowly. "Another young species. They probably still fight among themselves." "They do, Commander. Our intelligence shows they have divided themselves into nearly 200 separate nations. They argue constantly. They have fought 2 major world wars in the last century alone." This made Zorth smile. A divided species was an easy species. They would spend so much time arguing about what to do that they would never mount a real defense. By the time they agreed on anything, Valorian soldiers would already be marching through their cities. "Send the standard message," Zorth said. "Give them 6 hours to respond." The message was broadcast on every frequency that humans used for communication. It interrupted television programs, radio stations, and phone calls. It appeared on computer screens and was heard through car speakers. The message was simple. "People of Earth, you have been selected for integration into the Valorian Empire. You will surrender all military forces and government control within 6 hours. If you comply, you will be allowed to live as productive members of our empire. If you resist, your cities will be destroyed and your population reduced until compliance is achieved. You have 6 hours." Zorth leaned back in his command chair and closed his eyes. He would take a short nap. These primitive species always took the full 6 hours to debate and cry and eventually accept their fate. There was no rush. Thought he was wrong. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains in Colorado, the President of the United States was already in a meeting with his top military advisors. Similar meetings were happening in Moscow, Beijing, London, Paris, and dozens of other capitals. What happened next was something the Valorian Empire had never seen before. Within 18 minutes, the leaders of every major nation had agreed on one thing: they would not surrender. Not today. Not ever. General Kate Murphy was a 54-year-old woman with gray hair and steady hands. She had served her country for 30 years and had hoped to retire peacefully. Now she stood in the command center, looking at screens that showed the alien fleet in orbit. 12,000 ships, each one larger than anything humanity had ever built. "What are our options?" the president asked. "Limited, sir," Kate replied honestly. "But not zero. We have nuclear weapons. Thousands of them. We have missiles that can reach orbit. We have submarines hidden in every ocean. We have fighter jets and bombers ready to fly. None of it was designed for this kind of fight, but it's what we have. Will it work?" Kate looked at the screen for a long moment. "I don't know, sir. But I know this. If we surrender, we lose everything. Our freedom, our future, our children's future. If we fight, we might lose anyway. But at least we'll show these aliens that Earth doesn't give up without a fight." The president nodded slowly. He picked up a phone and spoke to the leaders of Russia, China, the United Kingdom, and France. The conversation lasted only 3 minutes. At the end, they all agreed. "Do it," the president said. "Launch everything." Kate picked up a red phone. Her voice was calm and clear. "This is Thunderbolt Actual. Authorization code 77 Gamma 9. All assets are weapons-free. I repeat, weapons-free." Around the world, soldiers who had trained for wars against each other suddenly found themselves on the same side. Russian submarine commanders received orders in English. Chinese missile operators coordinated with American satellites. French pilots flew alongside British jets. For the first time in human history, the entire species was united in a single purpose. On the Pride of Valoria, Commander Zorath was still resting when an alarm began to sound. He opened his eyes slowly, annoyed at the interruption. "What is it?" he asked. Vren's voice was shaking. "Commander, we are detecting launches." "Many launches." "Launches? What kind of launches?" "Nuclear missiles, Commander. From all over the planet. The count is still rising. 1,000. 2,000. 3,000 missiles and climbing." Zorath sat up straight. This was not possible. No species responded this fast. No species launched everything at once. That was insane. That was suicide. Where are they aimed? He demanded. Vren checked his readings twice before answering. His yellow eyes were wide with something that looked like fear. "Everywhere, Commander. They are aimed everywhere. At us, at the space around us, at their own atmosphere. I do not understand what they are trying to do." Zorath watched the screen as thousands of bright points rose from the blue planet below. Each point was a nuclear weapon. Each weapon was a statement that the humans have received his message. They had debated for less than an hour, and their answer was not surrender. Their answer was war. Zorath realized, for the first time in his long career, that he might have made a terrible mistake. He had conquered 600 worlds by threatening them with destruction. He had never met a species that responded to that threat by choosing destruction over surrender. Until now. "All ships," he ordered, his voice no longer calm, "raise shields and prepare for combat." It seems these humans want to fight. He had no idea what was coming next. Commander Zorath had given Earth 6 hours to surrender. He received his answer in 43 minutes. But it was not the answer he expected. The first wave of missiles rose from the oceans. 80 nuclear submarines from 7 different nations surfaced at the same moment and launched their weapons. The sky above every continent filled with white trails as rockets climbed toward space. From underground silos in America, Russia, China, and Europe, intercontinental ballistic missiles burst through concrete doors and roared into the sky. Vren's voice cracked as he read the numbers. "Commander, we are tracking over 4,000 nuclear weapons." Zorath almost laughed. Nuclear weapons against Valorian shields were like throwing rocks at a mountain. The shields would hold. The humans would waste their entire arsenal and accomplish nothing. Then the real conquest would begin. "Let them come," Zorath said. "They will learn that their primitive weapons cannot hurt us." But Vren was staring at his screen with confusion. "Commander, the missiles are not aimed at our ships." "What?" "They are targeting the space between our fleet and their atmosphere. They are creating a wall of explosions." Zorath leaned forward to look at the tactical display. He did not understand what the humans were doing. Why waste weapons on empty space? Then the first missiles reached their targets and detonated. The nuclear explosions did not damage the Valorian ships, but they did something far worse. They created massive electromagnetic pulses that washed over the entire fleet. The pulses fried sensors, scrambled communications, and blinded navigation systems. For several precious minutes, the Valorian armada could not see anything. "Report," Zorath shouted. "What is happening?" "Our sensors are down," Ren replied. "We are blind, Commander. We cannot see the planet. We cannot see each other. We cannot see anything." In that moment of blindness, the second wave launched. Captain Danny Reeves was 32 years old. He had brown hair, green eyes, and a calm voice that never changed no matter how bad things got. Right now, he was strapped into the cockpit of a modified F-22 fighter jet as it screamed toward the upper atmosphere at impossible speed. The modifications were experimental. Engineers had worked for years on special scramjet boosters that could push aircraft to the edge of space. The project had been secret and underfunded. Now, 300 of these modified jets were launching from bases around the world. American pilots flew alongside Russian pilots. Chinese pilots flew with pilots from Japan. Old enemies were now brothers. "Valkyrie Squadron, this is Control," said the voice of Colonel Linda Price through the radio. "You are cleared hot. Good luck and good hunting." Danny knew what she was not saying. This was a one-way mission for most of them. Each jet carried a single weapon, a shaped nuclear charge designed to punch through shields at point-blank range. The only way to deliver it was to fly directly into an enemy ship. Danny had volunteered. They all had. "Valkyrie 6, beginning attack run," he said calmly. His jet broke through the cloud layer and kept climbing. The sky turned from blue to purple to black. Stars appeared, and ahead of him, he could see the Valorian ships. They were huge, each one the size of a small city. Their shields glowed faintly blue in the darkness. The Valorian sensors were coming back online, but slowly. They had not expected the electromagnetic attack. They had not prepared for it. And they had certainly not prepared for 300 small aircraft moving at incredible speed toward their forward ships. Danny picked his target, a cruiser near the edge of the formation. His instruments showed it was still partially blind, its sensors flickering as they tried to recover. "Valkyrie 6. Target locked," he announced. "Valkyrie 4, right behind you." "Brother," came a voice with a Russian accent. "Valkyrie 12. "Same here," said a woman from Britain. They flew together toward the enemy fleet. Around them, other pilots were doing the same. Some were shot down by Valorian point defense weapons that were finally coming back online. Bright beams of energy cut through the darkness and found their targets. Jets exploded. Good men and women died, but not all of them. Danny saw the cruiser growing larger in his view. He could see details now: weapon ports, sensor arrays, the bridge where alien officers were probably watching him approach. He wondered what they were thinking. He hoped they were afraid. "Valkyrie 6, 30 seconds to impact," he reported. His hands were steady. His heart was calm. He thought about his mother, who had cried when he told her he had volunteered. He thought about his younger brother, who had said he was proud of him. He thought about Earth, blue and green and beautiful. Hanging in the darkness below, he did not think about what came. "Next, for Earth," he said quietly. Then he flew his jet directly into the Valorian cruiser and triggered his nuclear weapon. The explosion was blinding. The shape charge did exactly what it was designed to do. It bypassed the shields and detonated against the hull. The cruiser broke apart in a ball of fire and debris. On the Pride of Valoria, Commander Zorath watched in horror as his ships began to die. The tiny human aircraft were ramming them, sacrificing themselves to deliver their weapons at point-blank range. One cruiser exploded, then another, then a destroyer, then a transport ship. "They are killing themselves to kill us," Vren whispered. "What kind of species is this?" Zorath had no answer. In his long career, he had never seen anything like this. He had conquered worlds with advanced technology and powerful armies. None of them had fought like this. None of them had been willing to trade lives at such a terrible rate. In the first hour of the battle, the Valorian fleet lost 60 ships. Each ship represented years of construction and thousands of crew members. The humans had lost hundreds of pilots. But those pilots had volunteered. They had known they would die. And they had died anyway. Zorath ordered his fleet to pull back, to regroup, to assess the damage. As they retreated, he looked at the blue planet below. These humans were supposed to be primitive. They were supposed to surrender. They were supposed to be easy. Instead, they were willing to die by the millions just to hurt him. For the first time in his life, Commander Zorath felt something he had never felt before. He felt afraid. 3 days had passed since the Valorian fleet arrived at Earth. Commander Zorath had expected the conquest to be finished by now. He had expected to be accepting the surrender of human leaders and beginning the process of integration. Instead, he was standing on his bridge, watching his fleet slowly die. The humans would not stop fighting. Every hour brought new attacks. When the Valorians blocked one method, the humans invented another. When they destroyed one group of attackers, 2 more appeared. It was like fighting water. No matter how hard Zorath pushed, the humans flowed around him and found new ways to hurt his fleet. "Status report," he demanded. His intelligence officer, Specialist Vren, looked exhausted. His 4 eyes were dim and his gray skin had turned pale. "Commander, we have lost 112 ships. Our forward sensor network is still damaged from the initial electromagnetic attack. And the humans have begun using new tactics." "What new tactics?" Vren pulled up images on the main screen. "They are launching civilian spacecraft. Commercial rockets designed to carry satellites. They have loaded them with explosives and are using them as weapons. They are also using high-altitude balloons to carry bombs into our patrol routes. And they have begun shooting lasers at our ships from the ground." "Lasers?" "Their technology is too primitive for military-grade lasers. They have connected all of their power stations together," Vren explained. "They are channeling electricity from entire cities into experimental weapons. The lasers are not strong enough to destroy our ships, but they can damage sensors and blind pilots." Zorath slammed his fist against the arm of his command chair. "How are they coordinating this?" "We jammed their communications on the first day. They found alternatives, Commander. They are using light signals, sound signals, physical messengers, and something they call the Internet, which we cannot fully block. They have thousands of independent groups operating without central command. When we destroy one group, the others continue fighting." This was the part that Zorath could not understand. The Valorian Empire had conquered 600 worlds by targeting leadership. Kill the leaders and the followers fell apart. But humans were different. Their leaders died and new leaders appeared. Their generals were killed and soldiers promoted themselves. Their cities were bombed and survivors crawled out of the rubble, found weapons and kept fighting on Earth. The same determination burned in every heart. Dr. Nathan Cole was a 40-year-old scientist at a university in Massachusetts. He had spent 15 years working on directed energy weapons, but his funding had always been limited. Now he had unlimited resources and a simple order: make it work. He stood in a control room surrounded by computers and monitors. Through a window, he could see the massive structure they had built in just 48 hours. It was a particle beam projector, designed to shoot a concentrated beam of energy into space. In normal times, it would have taken years to build. But these were not normal times. "Is it ready?" asked General Kate Murphy, who had come to oversee the test. Nathan nodded slowly. "Ready as it will ever be. We have channeled power from every station on the eastern seaboard. When we fire, millions of homes will lose electricity. But we should have enough power to damage at least one enemy ship." "Then do it," Kate said. "Show these aliens what human science can do." Nathan entered the firing sequence. Lights flickered across the entire region as power was redirected. Then, with a sound like thunder, the particle beam fired. A column of pure energy shot into the sky and continued into space. The beam was not strong enough to destroy a Valorian warship. But it did not need to be. It struck the engine section of a destroyer that was holding position near the fleet's command ship. The engine core became unstable. The destroyer exploded. The explosion was so close to the other ships that the debris damaged 12 more vessels. 3 of them had to retreat for repairs. 2 more collided while trying to avoid the wreckage. Nathan watched the destruction on his monitor. He had never wanted to be a weapon maker. He had dreamed of using his technology for peaceful purposes, for generating clean energy and improving lives. Now he was killing aliens by the thousands. He did not feel guilty. He felt proud. "Begin recharging," he ordered his team. "We fire again in 3 hours." While the scientists worked, the soldiers fought. Across the Pacific Ocean, a group of Chinese and American pilots flew together for the first time in history. Their mission was to intercept a Valorian transport ship that was trying to land reinforcements in Australia. The pilots spoke different languages and had different training, but they had one thing in common. They refused to let their planet fall. Captain Wei Ling of the Chinese Air Force led the attack. He was 28 years old and had never seen real combat before this week. Now he had destroyed 3 enemy landing craft. "American friends," he said over the radio, "follow my lead. We go in fast and low." "Copy that, Dragon 1, replied Captain Sam Ortega from Texas. "Let's show these alien bastards what happens when you mess with Earth." The jets dove toward the transport ship. Valorian point defense weapons opened fire, filling the sky with deadly beams of light. 2 jets were hit and exploded. But the others kept coming. Wei fired his missiles first. They struck the transport's left engine, causing it to trail smoke and fire. Sam followed with his own missiles, hitting the right engine. The transport ship began to fall, spinning out of control toward the ocean. "Transport is down," Wei announced. "All reinforcements destroyed." "Good work, Dragon 1, Sam replied. "Drinks are on me when this is over." Wei smiled, even though he knew they might not survive long enough to share drinks. It did not matter. What mattered was that they were fighting. What mattered was that they were not giving up. On the Pride of Veloria, Commander Zorath received a transmission from Earth. It was from a human woman in military uniform. Her name appeared on screen: Admiral Grace Bennett, United Earth Defense Coalition. "Commander Zorath," she said, her voice calm and cold. "You have been in our space for 3 days. In that time, your attacks have killed approximately 2 million of our people. We have destroyed 147 of your ships." Zorath leaned forward. "Is this your surrender?" Admiral Bennett smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "No, Commander. This is a warning. We have 7 billion people on this planet. Every single one of them is willing to die fighting you. Every single one of them is a soldier now. How many more ships are you willing to lose?" The transmission ended. Zorath sat in silence for a long moment. He had conquered 600 worlds. He had killed millions of beings who had resisted. But he had never faced anything like this. The humans were not just resisting. They were attacking. They were sacrificing themselves by the thousands to hurt his fleet, and they were smiling while they did it. For the first time, Zorath began to wonder if this conquest was worth the cost. Commander Zorath made a decision on the 5th day of the invasion. The space battle was not going as planned. His fleet had lost over 200 ships, and the humans showed no signs of weakening. They kept finding new ways to attack. They kept dying by the thousands, but kept fighting anyway. Zorath needed to change his strategy. "We will land ground forces," he announced to his officers. "These humans are strong in space because they have nothing to lose. On the ground, they will have to protect their cities, their families, their homes. They will be forced to defend instead of attack. And we will crush them." His officers agreed. It was a sound plan. It had worked on dozens of other worlds where orbital bombardment alone had not achieved surrender. 20,000 Valorian soldiers landed in the American Midwest. They chose the area because it was flat and open, easy terrain for their advanced vehicles and weapons. The nearest major city was 300 miles away. The humans would have to come to them. The humans came. Sergeant Victor Ruiz was 36 years old. He had served in the Texas National Guard for 12 years, mostly doing training exercises and responding to natural disasters. He had never expected to fight aliens. But when the call came, he did not hesitate. His unit was a mixed group of soldiers, police officers, and armed civilians. Some had military training. Some had never fired a gun before last week. It did not matter. They were all Americans now. They were all humans. And they all wanted to fight. "Listen up," Victor said to his squad as they drove toward the landing zone. "These aliens have better technology, better weapons, better armor, but they have never fought humans before. They do not know what we can do. They do not know how far we are willing to go." A young woman in the back of the truck raised her hand. Her name was Amy Sullivan. She was 19 years old, a former cashier at a grocery store. She had volunteered 3 days ago. "Sergeant," she asked, "what can we do against their technology?" Victor smiled. "We can do what humans have always done when facing a stronger enemy. We hide, we ambush. We hit them when they are not looking and run before they can hit back. We make them afraid to sleep, afraid to eat, afraid to take a single step. We make this planet a nightmare for them." The Valorian ground commander was named Colonel Thrace. He was experienced and confident. His soldiers had the finest equipment in the Empire: energy shields, plasma rifles, and powered armor that could stop most weapons. They had vehicles that could float over any terrain and sensors that could detect heat, signatures from miles away. None of it mattered. The humans did not fight like soldiers. They fought like ghosts. They appeared from nowhere, fired their weapons, and vanished before the Valorians could respond. Every building was a potential hiding place. Every hill was a potential ambush site. Every road was lined with buried explosives. On the 2nd day of the ground invasion, Colonel Thrace lost 500 soldiers. On the 3rd day, he lost 800 more. His forces controlled the land they stood on, but nothing else. The moment his patrols moved away from the main base, they were attacked. The humans used everything as a weapon. Farmers drove tractors loaded with explosives into Valorian camps. Hunters used their rifles to shoot sensors and communications equipment. Children threw rocks to distract the guards, while adults planted bombs. Old women reported Valorian movements using radios hidden in their basements. Colonel Thrace sent a message to Commander Zorath in orbit. "These humans are insane. They attack us with no regard for their own safety. Civilians engage our soldiers with kitchen knives and hunting rifles. We kill them by the dozens and more appear. Request permission to use orbital bombardment on population centers." Zorath denied the request. Destroying cities would destroy the resources he was trying to capture. Instead, he sent more soldiers. 5,000 more. Then 10,000 more. It was not enough. Sergeant Victor Ruiz led his squad through a cornfield on the fourth night of the ground war. They had been fighting for 72 hours with almost no sleep. They had lost half their people, but they kept moving. "Target ahead," whispered one of his soldiers. Valorian patrol. 8 soldiers, 1 vehicle. Victor studied the enemy through his binoculars. The Valorians were walking in a tight formation, their weapons ready. They were clearly nervous. Good. Fear was a weapon too. "Amy, you have the rocket launcher," Victor said. "Hit the vehicle first. Everyone else, open fire on my signal." Amy Sullivan moved into position. Her hands were steady. She had never killed anyone before last week. Now she had killed 11 Valorians. She did not enjoy it, but she did not hesitate either. "Ready," she said. "Fire." The rocket hit the Valorian vehicle, and it exploded in a ball of fire. The soldiers around it were thrown to the ground by the blast. Before they could recover, Victor's squad opened fire. Bullets and homemade explosives rained down on the aliens. The fight lasted less than a minute. When it was over, all 8 Valorians were dead. Victor's squad had lost 2 more people, including a high school teacher who had been fighting alongside them for 3 days. "Move out," Victor ordered. "We have 5 minutes before their reinforcements arrive." As they ran through the corn, Amy asked, "Sergeant, do you think we can win?" Victor thought about the question. They were outnumbered and outgunned. Their weapons were primitive compared to the enemy. Their only advantage was that they were fighting for their home. "I do not know if we can win," he said honestly, "but I know we can make them pay for every inch of this planet. I know we can make them bleed. And I know that as long as one human is still alive, we will keep fighting." They ran into the darkness, ready for the next battle. On the 6th day, Colonel Thrace requested permission to withdraw. His forces had taken 40% casualties. His soldiers were exhausted and demoralized. They had expected a quick victory over a primitive species. Instead, they had found themselves trapped in a nightmare. "Commander," Thrace said in his message, "these humans do not fight like any species we have encountered. They have no central command to destroy. They have no capital city to threaten. Every village is a fortress. Every civilian is a soldier. We cannot hold this territory without destroying it completely. And if we destroy it, there is nothing left to conquer." Commander Zorath approved the withdrawal. He watched on his screens as the Valorian ground forces retreated to their landing craft and returned to orbit. They had controlled an entire continent. They had killed tens of thousands of humans. And they had accomplished nothing. The humans did not celebrate. There was no time. As soon as the aliens left, they began preparing for the next attack. They dug deeper shelters. They made more weapons. They trained more fighters. Amy Sullivan was promoted to corporal after the battle in the cornfield. She did not feel proud. She felt tired and sad and angry. But she also felt something else. She felt like she was part of something bigger than herself. She felt like she was fighting for every human who had ever lived and every human who would ever live. She felt like she was making history. She picked up her rifle and walked toward the next battle. The war was far from over. On the 7th day of the invasion, Commander Zorath did something that had never been done in the history of the Valorian Empire. He requested a ceasefire. The decision did not come easily. Zorath had spent his entire career conquering worlds. He had never failed. He had never retreated. But Earth was different. Earth was bleeding his fleet dry. 300 ships destroyed. 40,000 soldiers dead. And the humans showed no signs of weakening. Every day, they found new ways to fight. Every day, they launched new attacks. Every day, they died by the thousands and came back by the millions. It was like fighting an ocean. No matter how hard he pushed, the waves kept coming. "Send a message to their leaders," Zoroth ordered. "Tell them we are willing to negotiate." The message reached the United Earth Defense Coalition within minutes. Admiral Grace Bennett read it 3 times before believing it was real. Then she called a meeting with the other leaders. "They want to negotiate," she said. "The question is, what do we want?" Secretary General Omar Haddad spoke first. He was a 60-year-old diplomat from Morocco who had spent his life working for peace. Now he was helping to coordinate the largest war in human history. "We want them gone," he said simply. "We want them to leave our solar system and never return. We want them to return our captured people. And we want compensation for the damage they have caused." "That is a lot to ask," said General Kate Murphy. "We have hurt them, but we have not defeated them. They still have thousands of ships. They could destroy our planet if they wanted to." "Yes," Omar agreed. "But they do not want to destroy our planet. They want to conquer it. If they destroy it, they get nothing. We have made conquest too expensive. Now we must make retreat attractive." They sent their response to Commander Zoroth. Their terms were simple: immediate withdrawal from the solar system, return of all captured humans, and full technological exchange as compensation for the invasion. Zoroth's reply came within the hour. "Agreed." As the Valorian fleet began its withdrawal, leaving behind the wreckage of 300 warships, a Valorian diplomat named Ambassador Celis requested a final meeting. She wanted to understand what had happened. She wanted to know why this primitive world had fought so hard when surrender would have been so much easier. The meeting took place in the ruins of Geneva. The city had been hit by orbital bombardment early in the war. Thousands had died, but humans were already rebuilding. Workers cleared rubble while children played in the streets. Life continued. Ambassador Celis was tall and gray-skinned, like all Valorians. Her 4 eyes studied the humans around her with a mixture of curiosity and fear. She had visited many conquered worlds. She had never seen anything like this. Secretary General Omar Haddad met her in what remained of the United Nations building. Half the roof was gone, but the meeting room was functional. Rain fell through the holes, creating puddles on the floor. Neither side seemed to care. "I must ask you a question," Ambassador Celis said through her translation device. "Your casualties exceeded 50 million people. Your infrastructure is devastated. Your cities are in ruins. You had no real hope of defeating our fleet. Why did you not simply surrender?" Omar looked at the alien for a long moment. He thought about the pilots who had flown their jets into enemy ships. He thought about the soldiers who had fought against impossible odds. He thought about ordinary people who had picked up weapons and become warriors. "Because we have been through worse," he said finally. "We have survived ice ages and plagues and world wars. We have fought each other to the edge of extinction more than once. Every time, we rebuilt. Every time, we came back stronger." He stood and walked to the window. Through the broken glass, he could see humans working in the ruins. They were tired and dirty, and many were injured. But they were moving. They were building. They were alive. "Your empire has conquered 600 worlds," Omar continued. "You did it by threatening destruction. You assumed that every species would calculate the cost of resistance and choose surrender. We made a different calculation." "What calculation?" Ambassador Celis asked. Omar turned to face her. "We decided that there are things worth more than survival. Freedom, dignity, the right to choose our own future. You came here to take those from us. We decided we would rather die than let you." The ambassador was silent for a long time. Her 4 eyes blinked slowly as she processed his words. You are saying that you valued your freedom more than your lives? Yes, Omar said. That is exactly what I am saying. Every human who died in this war died for that belief. Every human who survived will carry that belief forward. And if you ever send another fleet to our world, we will fight again. We will be stronger. We will be better prepared. And we will never, ever stop. He extended his hand. It was a human gesture of finality, of agreement, of the end of something. Go home, Ambassador. Tell your Emperor what you found here. Tell him that Earth is not worth the cost of taking it. Tell him that we are small and primitive and insignificant. But we are free. And we will stay free. Ambassador Celis looked at his hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, she reached out and shook it. I will tell him, she said. I do not think he will believe me. But I will tell him. The Valorians left that day. Their ships rose from orbit and jumped into hyperspace, leaving behind nothing but debris and memories. The humans watched them go. There was no celebration. They were too tired, too hurt, too aware of what they had lost. But there was something else. There was pride. There was determination. There was the knowledge that they had faced the greatest threat in human history and had not broken. 50 years later, humanity reached the stars. They built ships using technology traded by the Valorians and technology they invented themselves. They found the Valorian Empire diminished, its reputation for invincibility destroyed by a single stubborn world. They found other species, previously conquered, watching Earth with hope and fear. Danny Reeves, the pilot who had survived the Valkyrie mission when his damaged jet was rescued by a fishing boat, became an admiral. He gave the first speech to the Galactic Assembly when Earth was invited to join. We did not win because we were stronger, he said. We won because we refused to accept defeat. That is what it means to be human. We are not the smartest species in the galaxy. We are not the most advanced. We are not the most powerful. But we are the most stubborn. He paused and looked at the assembled representatives from dozens of worlds. And we will extend that same stubbornness to protecting every world that wants to be free. We will stand with you. We will fight with you. We will never surrender, and we will never ask you to surrender. That is our promise. The vote to admit Earth to the Assembly was unanimous, and across the galaxy, species that had long since given up hope began to whisper a new word. They whispered it in their homes and their cities and their underground resistance meetings. They whispered, Hope. Because if humans could resist the Valorian Empire, perhaps they could too. Perhaps freedom was not just a dream. Perhaps the galaxy could be different. Perhaps anything was possible. On Earth, in a cemetery overlooking the ocean, Amy Sullivan stood before rows of white headstones. She was 70 years old now, a retired general, a hero of the war. But she still remembered being 19, holding a rocket launcher, fighting for her planet. We did it, she said quietly to the graves of her fallen friends. We won, and we never forgot you. We never forgot any of you. The wind blew gently through the grass. Above her, ships moved through the sky, carrying humans to distant stars. The future was bright and full of possibility, and it had all started because one small blue planet had refused to give up.